Amazon's Lord of the Rings of Power recently released their first official teaser and a few other articles, as well as a promotional video that have shed some light on the focus and direction that the studio might be taking for this new series. So let's start with the trailer. What did you think about the trailer, Blue?
When I first saw the trailer at the Super Bowl, I wasn't sure that it was a Lord of the Rings trailer. I was actually expecting a Lord of the Rings trailer to come out, but I had forgotten about it, and I saw this trailer, and I just thought it was maybe Polar Express 2, or some other kids' fantasy show that I would not be interested in. Right there at the beginning of it, it has that weird CGI, where it turns out it was Galadriel jumping and stabbing her knife into the ice. And it was a trailer that definitely didn't interest me until I realized, oh, they're talking about Lord of the Rings. And I definitely forgot all about the trailer. I had to go back and re-watch the trailer later on YouTube. And then as soon as I was done watching it, I had to go back and watch it again because I forgot everything. And I had to watch it like 3 times because it was a very non-exciting trailer for me. It looked kind of poor CGI in a lot of places. It just looked like a kid's show. I was excited in general for a new Lord of the Rings reboot, but the trailer did not get me excited.
I agree that it was not memorable. I was expecting the trailer. I have been anticipating this show. I know they've spent like $500 million on this show already, in acquiring the rights and in producing the first season. So I was questioning where all the money went when I was looking at this trailer. I was also seeing some elements in there just from my knowledge of the lore of Middle-earth and these characters that they were portraying on screen. I was thinking that this looks like a subversion of what these characters are typically known for. So they're trying to go with a young and brash and angry Galadriel. That's what came out in a Variety article. There's actually been a couple of interviews since then, since this first trailer released. And so that's reinforced some of the things that I've seen. Elrond is supposed to be more of a political figure, kind of an ambitious politician. It just seems like there's a lot of subversion of expectations. It's kind of a Hollywood trope. And so I've seen a lot of red flags. And so in the trailer itself, I wasn't that impressed. There were some interesting shots in there, but overall the aesthetic of the characters did not seem to fit with what I saw when I read Tolkien's books, with what we've seen in Peter Jackson's works, which were, while they did deviate from the source material, they were definitely pretty faithful to the spirit of Tolkien's works. So I saw a lot of red flags in that trailer.
So I never read the books. I did see the Peter Jackson films. I've probably seen the original 3 movies that Peter Jackson put out, probably 3 or 4 times over my life. So I can't come from a place of authority, of being the biggest fan ever. I haven't read the books, and I've only seen the movies a handful of times. I found Amazon's direction that they want to go recreating Galadriel and Elrond strange. I don't know why they don't just give us an original character. If they want a bold, young, Joan of Arc type female lead, that's great. I think it's awesome. We had her in Return of the Kings as Éowyn coming out with a sword, and she was this powerful female lead, which I thought was great. So I don't know why we need to take Galadriel and change her from being kind of that more ethereal, mystical type person. And maybe she is that way in the books. I don't think she is, though, from what I understand.
No, she's not. Well, there's been a couple of lines that they're kind of taking this from. And here's kind of the crux of the issue with this whole series, with what's come out since that trailer. It's been clarified that the showrunners, or that Amazon, does not have the rights to the Silmarillion, to the Unfinished Tales, or a lot of those stories, a lot of those writings from Tolkien that covered the events of the Second Age. And that's where they're setting this show. They're depicting some First Age things, but it's basically taken from the appendices of the Return of the King. And at the very end of the Return of the King, J.R.R. Tolkien actually delayed the release of that book in order to get more of those into those appendices. So there's a little outline, 100 some odd pages of appendices that they're going to be trying to take 5 seasons of this series from. So they're going to be filling in a lot of the gaps. They can't really contradict with the other lore that they don't have the rights to, but they're trying to create their own stories with these characters. And I feel like that is just such a huge misstep. It is such a huge mistake to take characters that people have an attachment to and then write new stories for them as if you were Tolkien. See, Tolkien already wrote what he wrote, but you're stepping into his shoes thinking that you can do something that lives up to what he wrote, and I feel like that is really disrespectful. Thinking that, oh, he did it, I could do it too. Yeah, you need to have some reverence for what this man built. And so that's the biggest red flag to me, is that the fact that they think that they can do this.
Yes, I can totally see where you're coming from. As someone that's never read any of Tolkien's works and only had seen the movies, and thinking about it from not a super fan's perspective, just a casual fan, I could see where they're trying to maybe change things up, and how, for me, I wouldn't be as upset about some of these changes that I know some people are. For instance, many people are very upset about the Dwarven princess and her lack of a beard. I get where a super fan is very upset about that, where Gimli even mentions it in the movies, and it's a thing in the lore. For me, I don't really care. That's not like a story-breaking thing where I'm going to be watching the movies and freak out because she doesn't have a beard. I think as long as they're giving us a good story with compelling characters, good dialogue, good-looking CGI and action, I'm going to enjoy it if they give us a good story that's based on this fantasy world we enjoy. And these lore-breaking elements, while I get a super fan would be more upset about them, I, as a casual fan, am not going to be as upset about them. And also coming from that perspective, I think about some of these things they're trying to do. They're clearly trying to change up some of the lore. Even in that article it mentioned, they're trying to condense some things.
Right, they're condensing the timeline down to a single point. A lot of these events, they're condensing them all into a single point in time.
So they're not saying that this is, in fact, canon. This is the new lore. This is what Lord of the Rings is going to be. Clearly, they're trying to do another take on it, almost like a multiverse kind of thing. So I just think of it as being more of a Star Wars fan, thinking of the sequels they put out, and how when that became canon, a lot of people were upset because they mistreated the legacy characters, and they didn't give us a great film overall, or a great trilogy overall. But we had to accept that as Star Wars fans, that this is now canon. However, I think if Amazon does fail to give us a good Lord of the Rings show, because it is not canon, it may be able to be easier to let that go and say, yeah, this is just a Lord of the Rings story, in quotation marks, and it's not actually Lord of the Rings. It's almost like a fanfic.
And because of that, I think that if they fail with it, if it doesn't turn out to be good on its own, then it will be more quickly dismissed by the masses. It does have mass appeal. Lord of the Rings does have mass appeal to normies who haven't read the books. They're very familiar with those movies that have come out. And so I feel like there are a lot that are in your position, or that have your perspective on it, that think that it's okay for them to tell whatever kind of story they want to tell if we get to see more from Middle-earth.
Those are our thoughts on the new Amazon adaptation that will be coming out in September for Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Let us know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with us, if you think it'll be great or if you think it'll be terrible. Go ahead and give us a like and subscribe, and come back for more if you want more news on pop culture and media, as well as reviews of new shows and movies coming out.